What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, taking a look at this updated Monarch Eldlich deck profile, and afterwards I have like one replay, just in case you haven't seen my gameplay videos and you kind of want a concept of proof, and I'll explain all my weird, ratios in here in a second. But, this is the first one, the Shadow Firestorm Monarch. Who knows what it's going to be called? I still don't think this card's very good, at the very least in the way that I play it. It's alright, and probably worth maybe just playing. It's summonable off of Ether, which is like pretty good. And it can potentially tribute one of your opponent's monsters. Just not enough Monarch support right now. It actually has like weird stat lines, right? It's supposed to have 28 and 1,000 or 24 and 1,000. So having 3,000 doesn't really do anything at all except make the card worse. Like, it doesn't work, with Domain of the True Monarchs. It doesn't work with Tenacity of the Monarchs, which is kind of just disappointing, to be honest with you. But when it hits the field, it's good. So what are you going to do? It rips a card out of your opponent's hand, potentially banishes a card they own as well. Has a lot of good effects. It's certainly one of the best effects of the Monarchs. It just kind of has those weird, quirky things that mess things up. Here comes the weirdest thing in the list. Probably. You're looking at it and you're like, I don't know. But is Eldlich the Golden Lord? I only run one copy. I've never really needed. If they banish it, you're like, man, I wish I had an extra copy. And you can if you really think that you just can't live without it, right? Like, oh, if your Scarlet has to summon from graveyard, like that's the worst interaction in the world. That's really as bad as it gets. If your opponent gets rid of it, it's usually not your main engine. It's just kind of unfortunate. It has lost me duels before. But I think that having a more condensed engine of this is one of the best decisions that I've made. And obviously, it's also a 2 tribute summon monster, so it can just be used, for your domain locks. Whenever you have like Eldlich up and you have like a set Conquistador and like this has been tribute summoned, your opponent can't use the extra deck and you have a pop. Like, it feels pretty cool, right? It's like not bad. It's not really its primary use. It's more of like an engine of some sort, but it's kind of the complementary piece, right? Your Eldlich doesn't have anything too powerful going second. Or, kind of has this, like, just anything at all. Like, very basic effects, right? Popping a card, banishing a card. Omni Negate is also there. Those things are okay, but they're not game-winning. Versus Monarchs, which the idea is that they're game-ending, right? You're locking your opponent out of the extra deck, which in the modern game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, this deck is, honestly, the concept of it has only gotten better with time. But it doesn't really do anything, during your opponent's turn. So these two kind of have, like, a perfect little marriage in between them. And this is like I don't know, I can't say like I have the best Monarch build ever, but I definitely think it's worth trying if you like Monarchs, because it's pretty cool. But that's that's a long way of me saying that's why I run Eldlich. I've never really needed it. 3 because Ether's better, right? Ether is a 3 of. I used to have this as a 2 of. I kind of feel like it's weird not to have this because it kind of just summons everything from the deck. Some of your tech options, so that's going to be Simorg and Luminous Lunar Dragon. Erebus can also be summoned off of it, obviously. Simorg prevents your opponent from setting cards, which could be very, very good when, like, if you're playing Trap Tricks, you're going into game 3, right? I mean, sometimes you'll summon this anyways, but if you have Ether in hand, yet you tribute summon Ether, you bring out another Ether during your opponent's turn, during the main phase, when they start trying their Trap Trick stuff, or maybe they even just normal summon, you activate Ether in hand, tribute Ether on field, bring out some more. They can't set cards, they lose. So it's kind of your out to back row decks. Labyrinth, of course, also fits the same description. Luminous Lunar steals an opponent's monster, so not a bad effect to have with Ether, especially if you're going into the later stages of the game. It only lasts till the end of the turn, unfortunately. This is one of those cards. It's a 1 tribute monster, which is like the best part about it, to be honest with you, right? It's like Domain. It's just an easy 1 tribute monster to get over stuff. So I think that as new support comes out for Monarch, this is just like, obviously one of those slots that's going to get replaced, as new support comes out. It's just like one of the best things to summon off of Ether, which is not a good thing. I think Dark Simorg will always kind of be in there. Maybe it's something you can side out. But I do think it's necessary to have. Preventing your opponent from setting cards, it's not a tribute effect. It's just like a summonable effect. So when you have this card tribute for Domain, like that's also just like really, really strong. Erebus is recursion. It's summonable from the deck. I've never really needed to play it more at 1. It's also a zombie, so If Eldlich is on the board, your second Conquistador can just like get Erebus on the field, and then you can tribute over it through whatever means, add it to your hand. Kind of gets it in the loop. It's a little bit of a slow loop, but I don't know. This is a very slow game, you know, kind of deck. Your opponent's gonna have to, if they don't immediately scoop, gonna have to do some pretty wild stuff, you know, to get playing. So you kind of do have times for that. So Erebus is still good to this day. Non-targeting, shuffle back into the deck. It sends 2 cards, which are going to be extenders. One of them will always be in the deck, Pantheism, right? That's like such a, obviously just a very, very good Yu-Gi-Oh card. And most of the time you're sending the Prime Monarch, but this is another card. I think as newer support comes out, you'll see something that's better. Like right now you kind of have to play it. It's like the only other good card to send to the graveyard, like at all. And it's like tribute fodder too, of course. You know, which helps a lot, but I'm excited to see what comes up. If this can't be the only card they're bringing out. There's just no shot. This is one of the best additions to the deck probably ever. Like it wasn't even intended. Obviously, it's a Kashtira card, but it's a free special summon, so it's a free body, which is great going first or second, which is one of the best things. And it searches a copy of itself. So as long as you can get one other free body on the board, which there's lots of ways to do that, obviously, then you're cooking with gas. So this is good tribute fodder, right? This is good like to have up with domain. It's one of the best things to have up with domain because it plays during your opponent's turn. It's the perfect package. This is amazing, amazing support. Like maybe you even want to extend and like get rid of some of these cards like Antimifrofrit, Unicamoflight, and like run more Kashtira cards. I've thought about experimenting with that, but at the very least Fenrir has to be in your deck because there's obviously just not a lot of going second cards, and this is one of them. Speaking of going second, Majesty's Fiend. Oh my goodness! Like I've had so many. Well, I had a couple of like really good replays lined up. I ended up losing to Evilly Mash, which is disgusting. But this card is so much better going second than I could have ever imagined. You activate, you know, Unicamoflight. You special summon. Your opponent's usually not going to stop that, right? It's just like it's Upstart Goblin as a monster, but then you normal summon or tribute summon, I should say, Majesty's Fiend, and like suddenly your opponent's big board doesn't really do anything, especially if they have all their gate and the gates there, and you can activate Domain of the True Monarchs and then get over their biggest body. You're in like really, really good shape. So I've come to love this card. It's a single tribute, which is also very important. There's so many times where you do have 2 tributes either through Domain or just having by 2 bodies, but a lot of the, like, you want to be able to do this as consistently as possible. So yes, there are better ones like Vanity's Fiend, but the only problem, you know, is that you may just like be stuck with a true tribute body in your hand that you can't do anything with. Everything else kind of gets figured out. You know, Ether can go down to 1 tribute. Erebus obviously can do that too. This is already 1 tribute, so I don't really have a lot of 2 tribute bodies, and that's like, I think I tried to do that before and it was just kind of too inconsistent. One of those free bodies is obviously Magician's Souls. You want to have like, you have to condense engines, right? Like you need a draw engine that's a body. Well, Unicamoflight and Magician's Souls do both of that because, you know, these cards obviously don't do anything in your hand, these tributable bodies, so you kind of need a lot of consistency cards. Pantheism is one of those, Magician's Souls is one of those, you know, Unicamoflight. Magician's Souls is one of the best cards to ever come out for Monarch and Eldlich, so bringing them 2 together is obviously fantastic. Sending Pantheism, sending Cursed Outlin from the field, sending any of your Eldlich traps to the graveyard, Sanguine. It ends up being Pot of Greed that gives you 2 searches, you know, and that's just incredible. It's like really objectively good. It's really one of the best interactions, and if this gets impermed, it's unfortunate, but you're never like, you know, you're going to send stuff that you want in the graveyard anyways. I've had so many times where, you know, I even just like maybe go for 1 and they ash it, but I sent Pantheism. So then Pantheism searches me and it's just like really amazing. So this is a must include no matter what comes out, I feel like, for the support. And then you search it 3 times with Illusion of Chaos. You can run through Magician's Souls if you really want to. It doesn't really make much of a difference. I think this is the cheaper, like if you want to buy this in real life, this is the cheaper way to do it. Because I have 1 Magician's Souls. I'm still waiting for a common to come out. I'd love to play this deck in real life. It's extremely cheap other than like literally this card. And I think maybe this one too. Unicamoflight. You don't really want to, you never want to run this at 3, that's for sure. You never want to even have a, like, pretty much a statistical chance to draw into it off of it. And like even just that few percentage more where it's possible if you run the third copy, it's terrible. It's always bad. There's so many better cards, but you know, it's a free body, and that's the most important thing. To draw one, which is really good, kind of solves the problem. But again, this is one of those slots where if new Monarch support comes out, like this card's cooked. I know there's a normal summon kind of engine for Monarchs, but if it gets impermed off of the normal summon, you just lose. Like, it's just so bad. Like, I refuse to play it. The free bodies have to be free. You can't expend your normal summon to do it, I feel like. Just because there's too much interruption, you know, from your opponent. That would just not be good. So that's why I run this as kind of my tribute engine. 3 Pantheism, no surprises there. Tenacity. This actually doesn't make too much sense anymore. I used to run the Monarch Stormforth as a one-of. The idea is, if you want Domain of the Monarchs, most of the time, 99% of the time, right? This also fits in the 24 and 1000 mold, by the way, for Tenacity. If this, like, you know, if you're gonna win, you're gonna need a tributable body. So I used to run this little thing here. Well, you show 2 Domain and 1 Tenacity, right? Like I said, you're gonna have a tributable body in your hand, unless you're just extremely unlucky and it's like Eldlich the Golden Lord, where you could flex, right? Most of the time you want Domain, so it doesn't really make a difference at all. It's like basically a third copy of it. But if you wanted to get Stormforth, you could. I've taken that out, so really this isn't even in there anymore for like any good reason. But if you do run Stormforth, if you want to go over 40, which I don't think is like a horrible thing to do, that's the reason I did that. Just so you can condense the deck size down. It's basically like having a third copy, but it's not really. And it gave you the ability, because if your opponent sees this and they insta-lose to it, they're obviously going to give you Tenacity, thinking, oh, maybe like he banished one or whatever the case may be. Maybe he doesn't run a third one, but you can just always search it anyways to have that flex. But I think this is an engine I still want to keep in, you know, if there is some new spells and traps that come out. 2 Cursed Outlin. If Masterpiece ever comes out, this instantly has to go to 3, of course. Still waiting for that to happen. Like, gosh, I cannot. Like, if I could replace this with Masterpiece right now, RIP in peace would be so good. So, still waiting for that. Talked about this. 3 Scarlet. This is like one of the best cards, obviously. It summons out Eldlich. It also like eventually replaces it by one of the good ones, which is a really good loop. 1 Hawkero, 2 Conquistador. I've kind of run this engine like this forever. These, you know, it's a kind of all or nothing. If you can stop your opponents, maybe like one thing to out your Domain, you know, to get over your Erebus, you usually win. This is also good for the draw engine with Magician's Souls if you send one. So 2 of these is good. Like, you want to either use this twice or send one off of, like, right? Here's how it goes. Cursed Outlin searches you Conquistador. Special summon Magician's Souls. Send 1 probably, or maybe send 2 depending on what's in your hand. But Cursed Outlin effect to send the other Conquistador. That way you have both Scarlet and Conquistador going at the same time. And right, this is the best one, so you want to have the most copies of it just in case, you know, you're lucky and you can use both copies. Talked about the Prime Monarch. 3 Monarchs are up, right? This is definitely one of those like 100%ers that you want to have with Pantheism. And then Golden Land Forever. Probably should have put this over here. This is your protection against like Lightning Storm. You know, that's usually your opponent's like only out or evenly matched or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and jump over. I don't know what I did, but I'm going to jump over to the replays. And I'm just going to show you, if I can remember, which one I was trying to show you. As this is from the old gameplay video, and I have no idea. But I'll show one. Why not? If I can find a good one. How bizarre. Okay. Looks like I have Unicama Flight. I have Ether. So I do have at least the Monarchs Erupt online, so I'm going to go ahead and draw one here. It ends up being Illusion of Chaos, so essentially as good as it gets. And you'll see here I can send Conquistador. That way it's going to draw a card, and it will give me Scarlet during the end phase, which is great. I'm going to be able to, you know, tribute summon. I did get, oh, look at that, it's Gamma, unbelievable. But I also grabbed myself Cashier Fenrir, which ends up being really important. So this is not good, right? This Monarchs Erupt is not online, but I might as well set it now. I'm in a desperate situation anyways, right? If I get lucky, I'll be able to get back to my turn and then tribute summon using, you know, Luminous Lunar. He is running the new super heavy samurai stuff. Okay. He's going to grab Soul Piercer. Why not? I think that's the one that's really good that when it's sent to the graveyard, and I'm pretty sure it can search the other pendulum. He also has Ghost Ogre. Discards Moonlit Chill. That's great. I was getting real nervous at this point, hoping I can at least survive. I do have okay follow-up, especially if he doesn't destroy my Monarch's Erupt. Last card in hand is Jet. That sucks really badly. Fenrir put in a lot of work, and it does most of the time for you. Brings out 2 Beaver. He goes into Gigantic. Brings out Blue, but he already went through Jet, so he's only going to be able to search like a negate for this back row. We'll see how he ends up using it. He does get over Eldlich, which helps me a lot, so I'm going to be able to go into my Fenrir as my forward starting play, and that's really, really nice. Especially because Scarlet's going to be able to set, right? Eldlich is also just a really good tribute engine in and of itself. Domain off the top is fantastic, so I can go ahead and special summon Fenrir, add another copy that, right? If he gets rid of Fenrir, I can just special summon again. And there he goes. He goes for Smashers during the battle phase. That's fine. I'm going to be able to do a lot of stuff here. So just like that, I can go ahead and tribute. I did end up using Eldlich as the tribute fodder and saving Hakera. And Hakera's not really doing anything at this point. I'm going to bait out the Monarch's Erupt. He's going to be forced to use Gigantic Sprite, or else he just loses. And then, of course, in my hand, I can reveal that I had Domain. And I was able to banish his Pendulum Scale, so no shenanigans there. You know, just being able to use Eldlich over and over again. The 2 engines are so good. I think that was a little bit of everything. So hopefully you saw kind of, you know, how that works. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.